Lon Simon, and in case you haven't heard, today is iPhone Day. Now, I do promise not to do another iPhone hype video because there are plenty of those on the internet right now. But what I do every year when the iPhone comes out, the new one, is I compare the new one to the current one and let you know whether or not it's something you should be upgrading to, or maybe if you should wait. So let's take a look at the hardware and kind of compare the two. I went with the 6 and not the 6 Plus. The 6 is a 4.7-inch screen, substantially larger in the hand. It feels a lot bigger than the current iteration, which is the 5 and 5S. So you can see my thumb can actually reach the opposite end of the screen on the 5S, and it really can't get up there on the 6. And the 6 Plus would be even harder to get your finger across the whole thing without having to reposition or use a second hand. But what you can do is double tap on the sensor down here, and it will bring the icons down closer to you, which I thought was a pretty clever way of giving us people who are accustomed to using an iPhone with one thumb the ability to keep using it like we were. And it actually, I think, is safer because you don't have to actually try to reposition it in your hand and risk dropping it in order to get at some of those icons and other things. It works in every app also. So if I go into the settings here, you can see I can double tap down here. It'll move everything down lower so I can reach it. So I thought that was a pretty neat way to kind of help people adjust to that new screen. The only other big hardware difference beyond the screen is that they've moved the sleep-wake button from the top of the phone to the side now, which actually is another good idea just because you don't have to go reach up to the top and risk dropping it again to do that. So I thought that was a nice change. But beyond that, everything else is pretty much in the same place. It does feel a lot thinner, even though it isn't all that much thinner when you put them next to each other. The reason it feels thinner, though, or feels more thinner than it is that they've rounded everything. So the aluminum on the bottom here is rounded very nicely, as is the glass. They kind of wrap everything around each other. It really feels nice in the hand. They've done a nice job designing these phones, and they continue to really impress me with their prowess in hardware engineering. It's really just a really nice feeling phone. It does feel very similar to the Galaxy S4 in how it feels in my hand. So clearly they're reacting a little bit to the success that these larger phones have had in the marketplace. And I think it was the right time. These apps are getting more advanced. We want to do more things with these apps, and having a larger screen, I think, makes a lot of sense. And they did it right here in this phone. And I think if your hands are bigger, you'll certainly like the larger 5.5-inch iPhone. But for me, this one did the trick. The camera now, though, because these phones are getting so thin, they can't fit the camera in the case, so it kind of sticks out a little bit. This is a sapphire lens, so I don't think you're going to worry about scratching too much. It was a sapphire lens in the prior version also, and mine's held up pretty well over the last year. But you might want to get a case if you're worried about that, maybe something that provides a little protection around that area so that the lens isn't always touching the surface of a table that you might be putting it down on. And the camera on the iPhone 6 is every bit as good as the 5, but it's not a huge groundbreaking difference in still image picture quality. You can see here this picture I took on my deck looks great, very sharp, but the iPhone 5S can take pictures pretty much just as good. So I didn't really see any still picture performance that really knocked my socks off. But the one thing that I found to be really cool was that they improved the slow motion video feature. And the iPhone 5S could record video at 120 frames per second, and then when you played it back at a normal frame rate of 30 or 60 frames per second, you'd get this really nice fluid motion. It was really cool. The 6 can record video at twice the frame rate, so it can record at 240 frames per second and give you some amazing slow motion video. It's a little bit hard, I found, to adjust some of the exposure right away. I've got to play with it a little bit more, but I was just playing around with my dog in the backyard, running around with her, and not only did it stabilize very well, but it also just created this beautiful fluid motion, which I am just totally impressed with. So I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with that slow motion feature, and I don't think there's too many cameras on the market right now that are affordable that can do that kind of frame rate for slow motion video recordings. Now, graphically, the iPhone 6 is a little bit faster than the 5S, running some graphical benchmarks like this one from Epic Games. This is called the Zen Garden, which you can download from the App Store. You can see, this is a pretty heavy-duty 3D application here, and it's running okay on both. It really, to my eye, it's certainly a little bit faster on the 6, but it's not like, wow, it's a whole different world. That was interesting when I ran a 3D Mark benchmark on the iPhone 6, which is a multi-platform benchmarking tool that I run on Android and Windows as well. The 6 scored a score of 16,373 compared to the iPhone 5S at 13,887. So the 6 now is a little bit faster than the iPhone 5S. It's also faster than what is currently the fastest iOS device, which is the iPad Air. So it bests that, but just a little bit. But what's interesting, though, is that the NVIDIA K1 processor, which is currently on their Shield tablet, is much faster on that 3D Mark test. And I think there's probably some optimizations that haven't found their way into that 3D Mark test yet, but NVIDIA's got a really hot processor with that K1, and I think we're going to see some substantial Android gaming devices coming out over the course of the year. So should you upgrade your iPhone 5 or 5S to the 6? And I had a really hard time making this video tonight because there isn't a single compelling feature beyond the bigger screen size and the new form factor that makes this a huge upgrade over the current version. Everything else is really an incremental improvement, and a very slight incremental improvement at that. So I think if you're happy with your 5S or even your 5, I think you'll be happy for at least another year or more, because these are very capable phones, good processors on board. I think they're going to support a lot of the iOS features and apps that will be coming down the pike over at least the next year or two. So you'll be perfectly fine staying there. If you're on like an iPhone 4 or 4S or even older than those phones, then this is a substantial upgrade from that, and you'll get a lot of new features like the fingerprint sensor and the better camera and a lot of things that I think you're going to enjoy a lot that you don't have on your current phones. But even then, if this screen is too big, even at its 4.7-inch size, definitely take a look at the 5S, because this has all those features that I just mentioned: the fingerprint sensor, the better camera, better processor, and it's a smaller form factor, and it's only $99 too right now. So there's a good reason to maybe give this one some consideration as well. So that's the iPhone 6, a nice phone. I'm going to use it every day now. It's my new phone, but it's just an incremental improvement beyond the bigger screen size. This is Lon.TV, and thanks for watching.